Hi, welcome on board Motor Yacht Serenity. My name's Alex Kosmakos from Maz Ocean Yacht Technology. We're on board this Lagoon 63 doing an electrical and air conditioning refit. Got a big project underway. We're getting ready to wrap things up here, get it all programmed to get the boat on the water tomorrow. I just want to take a minute here to walk you through the systems that we've designed and installed for this boat and the functionality of what they're going to get on board. So the heart of the system is a large lithium battery system. They're going to have 78 kilowatt hours of lithium batteries here to allow them to run their air conditioning overnight, up to maybe 20 hours of runtime without having to turn on the generator, have any noise, burn any fossil fuels. We're going to combine that with that Termodinamic air conditioning system. It's extremely efficient. It's going to use a little less than half the power of a traditional air conditioning system to leverage that battery bank for longer, quiet times on board. One of the other main components of this system is the Integrel Power Systems, which is engine-mounted power generation device, which is going to provide up to 18 kilowatts of power to the boat when the engines are running. This being a motor yacht, has a motor from point A to point B. They're going to be able to siphon off some of the extra power of their engine, provide that to the battery bank to use at their leisure when it's stored there. We also have a large inversion system, so all the AC, all the alternating current loads on the boat can be pulled from their 48-volt battery bank, allowing them to have a third source of power. They'll have shore power, generator power, and now they're also going to have battery power to run their full AC electrical systems on board. So here we are on Serenity's heart of their monitoring and control system that we've installed here. We have a handful of touchscreen displays to give you all the information that you need and the control you need for the different systems. So here on the left-hand side, we have two Victron Cerbo touchscreens, one for the 48-volt bank, one for the 24-volt bank. On this boat, we run a 48-volt bank as the main inversion bank, the main source of power from the batteries that's going to feed everything else. That bank then charges this 24-volt bank, which will run all the normal 24-volt loads on the boat, including the bow thruster is also run off this 24-volt lithium bank. So you can see here the different components involved in the system. Your top left is going to be your grid input, so it's either going to be your generator or your shore power. In this case, we don't have generator or shore power turned on, so we're currently pulling off the batteries, which is the bottom left-hand image here. The batteries are showing you that we're currently pulling 4,000 watts, about 4,000 watts off the batteries, 3,600 of which is going to our AC loads, our alternating current loads, via the inverter. We also have an additional 350-ish watts of DC power at 48 volt coming off of this bank as well. You get an idea here of the size of the battery bank. You can see it's barely decreasing the battery bank as we're pulling more than 5,000 watts off the bank there. We just turned on the AC, so it's operating essentially at 100% load on the air conditioning right now, pulling less than 5,000 watts on a 63-foot Catamaran, so substantially less than you'd be drawing from a traditional air conditioning system. And with the bank size being at around 78 kilowatts, you can see that we have, under full load, already more than 12 hours of runtime, and that load will decrease substantially as the boat starts to cool down. Here next to the two Victron displays, you'll see your MG energy displays. These are going to give you a deep dive into the exact battery health, battery temperatures, what each and every battery is doing, how they're behaving. And these devices are all connected via CAN network, so they're all talking to each other. They all have an awareness of what's going on with the batteries and the inversion. They're all working together. Here on the right-hand side, we have our Integrel touchscreen display. This is going to show you your power generation from your port and starboard integrals, which are mounts on the engine, giving you power, 48-volt charge to your 48-volt bank. This also is integrated in the same communication network as the MG and the Victron, so the BMSs can tell the integrals the charge current, charge voltage that they require to make sure you're optimizing your charge from your engines. So essentially what we have here is that we've got a device mounted to each engine that's going to convert engine power to electricity. The way it does that is by being belt-driven device that's going to go to a proprietary integral controller. That controller then is going to control the charge current, charge voltage going to our MG batteries. We can produce up to 18 kilowatts off of the two integrals that are on this boat to allow this bank to charge very rapidly with essentially extra power from the engine. The delta curve on a traditional marine engine is not very efficient, so we can take some of that inefficiency, siphon off some of that power here to our port and our starboard integrals, and we can leverage that wasted power by creating electricity. If you look here on the front of the engine, we've got our integral alternator down here. So we've got the integral mounted here, that's our 48 volt power system. And we maintained the primary alternator, the 12 volt alternator is still here on the other side of the engine. Because we've got this large 48 volt bank where we can store that power, we can then use that power at our leisure. So maybe we don't need the power right now while the engines are running, but because we have a large capacity, we can store that power here in our batteries and use it later on for the air conditioning, the cooktop, for our bow thruster, any of the systems on board, and really leverage the ability of this boat to burn as little fuel as possible, be as efficient as possible, and use the power the way they want to use the power, when they want to use the power, rather than being shackled to the generator and needing to turn the generator on every time they want to make power. Here we have our off-on buttons for our port and starboard integrals, and then up in the top right, you have your Termodinamica control and monitoring board here. So here's your main Termodinamica master control. You're gonna have on this boat a master control here in the main salon. That's gonna let you control all of the areas of the boat. And then each cabin will each have its own individual smaller control specifically for that area. So we'll go ahead and turn it on here and we'll make sure we're set to cool. And we can page through these here and we can see what our compressors are doing. You can see the amount of information here. Tons of information about temperatures, pressures of every part of the system. And ultimately on this boat, what makes this boat unique to another type of system is that we have a single compressor on board, and that single compressor provides compressed gas to each area for each maxi air handler. So the boat's only gonna draw as much power as the compressor needs based on the demands of each area. And that allows the system to operate extremely efficiently. So if you're in a situation where your cabins are all cool, but you just have a bunch of heat load in the salon, we're only going to compress enough gas just to cool the salon, which allows the system to be extremely efficient, which will obviously maximize your runtime on your batteries, the less power that you're pulling. All right, we're in the engine room here on Serenity on the starboard side. We have our dual compressor units here on this boat. This particular boat has opted for an extra large redundant system. So we've actually doubled their compressor capability here. One of these alone would be enough to run this boat 99% of the time, but we went ahead and put two in for redundancy and then for extra power and cool in the Florida summer, because this boat's going to be in the Bahamas and Florida in August and September when the water is in the high 80s, low 90s. So these are our two thermal compressors here. So if we go back to home here, we can go in here and we can look at the individual units of this controls. So currently we're here at the salon. We see that it's 78 degrees inside and it's set to 70 degrees. So the fan's running and it's gonna automatically adjust the fan speed based on the demand of the temperature on board. We can go over here to this side, we can select here, we can see for instance the port forward cabin, and it's gonna show us the cabin is already at 70 degrees. So we're not gonna have any demand from the compressor for that space. On this boat, we also installed an air handler specifically for the generator locker. All of our inversion, our BMSs, our batteries are all contained in that space. So we added an additional air handler to cool down that space and make sure our electrical system runs as efficiently as possible by keeping the temperature down. Welcome to the generator room on Serenity, sort of the heart of the electrical system here. You'll see directly behind me, we have our two inverter chargers, 48 volt, 15,000 watt units, two of them running in parallel. Underneath us, we have our battery bank. We have 10 7.2 kilowatt batteries for the 48 volt system and two 5.8 kilowatt batteries for the 24 volt system. Over here behind my left shoulder, you'll see our two MG Energy Master LV BMSs. So we have our 48 volt 1000 amp here and our 24 1000 amp here. You can see we have our wires coming in on the left hand side going out to our batteries and our right hand side going out to our charges and our loads. This system is set up where everything is controlled by the BMS, so we can control both the load and the charge side of what's happening to our batteries. So should you have any issues with overcharging or undercharging, we can terminate the power from the charge side, but still allows you to pull loads off the batteries. And should you have any overload situations, we can terminate the loads to keep the loads from pulling off the batteries, but still allow you to charge the batteries back. As you can see in all of our refits, we try to leverage the existing equipment wherever possible. In this case, we've maintained this charger for their 12 volt starting banks for their two start batteries and their generator start battery. it's a good product in good shape, so we saw no reason to replace it. So we leveraged that here. The Quattros, the inverter chargers, are set up in such a way that it's all automatically source selecting. So we have shore power and generator coming into the boat, which will pass through our Quattros out to our AC loads on the boat while simultaneously charging the batteries. If we turn off our shore power or turn off our generator, it will automatically invert off the Quattros, which means that you can provide continuous AC power to all of your equipment on board, whether you have an AC source from shore gen or not. We're on the aft side of the generator locker here on Serenity, and you can see we've got some additional equipment mounted on this side. Here is the Victron Autotransformer. This is what allows us to pull 120 volt power from our 240 volt system. The infrastructure of the boat, the generators, the shore power is all run at 240 volt to maximize our power, decrease our current, and provide the most efficient system we can. But then we know that people need 120, 60 hertz power on board for their US powered appliances and items. So that's what this Autotransformer does here, is allows you to get that US power to the boat. This boat was also equipped with 2 generators when we came on board. We have the main Cummins Onan generator here in the generator locker and an additional Fisher Panda smaller generator in the engine room. We've installed this box here to allow the system to automatically understand which generator is running and assign the power from that generator to pass through the system. With the Cerbo GX control, we can also set the generator up to automatically start when the batteries reach a low level and automatically stop when the batteries are fully charged. So the system can maintain its own charge, start the generator, pass that power through, and make sure that if the crew's away from the boat or if something gets missed, we always protect our batteries and make sure that the batteries keep their charge. Over here on this side of the boat, you'll see the original DC distribution for the 24 volt. We've used what we could here and leveraged what we could on the original distribution and amended and added to it as need be. Again, that idea of like anything that's good and well done and working properly, we don't need to waste anyone's time or money replacing things that are good. We can leverage what's here and be as efficient as possible on our install. Another great feature that we like to install on our systems is what we call a bypass system. So this large black switch here essentially is like a reset button or a time traveler button. If you flip this switch to the right-hand side, it essentially takes the boat back to before we were on board, completely bypassing the entire lithium system, inversion system, and directly powers the boat up the generator. So if you had any sort of one-time event, catastrophic issue, you can simply flip this switch and the entire Maz Ocean system is bypassed and you just have a straight run from your generator to power the boat. Hi, I'm Alex Kosmakos from Maz Ocean Yacht Technology. We're a company based here in South Florida, specializing in all things electronic or electrical. Anything that plugs in or gets power is our specialty. Everything from large lithium systems, solar panels, navigation equipment, security, monitoring, IT, AV, internet systems on boats. Both if you have a new boat that you'd like to upgrade straight out of the factory, or you've got an older boat you want to refit, we're the place to come to take care of all that for you and bring your boat into the 21st century with the most modern equipment and all the newest technology available.